What's up, fellas? It's your main man. Back on the scene with another video. The buffer class strategy has failed. For those of you who do not know what the buffer class is, that is when they bring people who are not white and not black as a buffer in between the races. Now they give them a little bit more the good folks, the good ones, the model minorities. And you see right here, they played themselves. Punk ass fool played himself. American man reveals Indian CEO took over a firm, booted out founders, hired Indians. Checkmate on your damn self. Because those HB1 visas, they basically called themselves playing them out and using them for slave labor because the United States has a love affair with slave labor. And what happened? They get in there and flip the script once they got into a position of power, threw the white man out. And I'm not mad at them. You called yourself playing them out, but you got to play it out. Because this should have never happened. They should have given these jobs to Americans. If there was a sector that needed a certain skill, the Department of Education was supposed to send out the alert, well, we're going to need this skill in X amount of years. They didn't do that. That's why they should be dismantled. They failed. They didn't do the job. Well, what good are they? And a lot of these guys in the IT sector, they're learning on the job. They don't even have any skills. There's a lot of BS going on too. And, that's just people looking out for their own folks. I mean, I'm not mad at them for that. I'm mad at who allowed it to happen. Because instead of playing the buffer class strategy, what they should have done was back in the 1860s, paid the freedmen and leave them alone. Give them a piece of the action and let the country, keep the money in the country. But they didn't want to do that because the megalomania wouldn't allow them to do that. Their minds infested with hate and evil. Because they were so preoccupied with a bunch of black men, reefer driven.
Hey, listen, guys. Look, I don't want to mess with no reefer addicts, okay? You're home.
Rampage through white neighborhoods and having sex with all the white women.
All my life, I've only been able to think about one thing. White women. And now, at last, I'm going to have one.
That's the type of BS they had in their heads. But you played yourself. Because you cannot bring over people from an alien culture en masse and expect it to work out. Multiculturalism is BS. Because they're going to hang on to their culture. Well, let me give you an overview of the buffer class. So let's check this out. Bacon's Rebellion, inventing black and white. See, people refer to themselves as to wherever they came from, that's how they identified themselves. They didn't call themselves black, they didn't call themselves white, yellow, red, brown. People did not call themselves that. That was something created for division. Right here, the more detailed breakdown, this is the best part of this AI overview. The AI overview does a pretty good job. The rebellion demonstrated the potential for cooperation between white indentured servants and enslaved Africans, which frightened the colonial elite. They feared this unity would lead to future uprisings and sought to prevent it by creating clear racial divide. White is a class. Black is a class. All that stuff is a class. This is why when people from the buffer class countries, when they come here, They all want to get into that club in living color, shade whiteys, because they view whites as the winner of society, and blacks are still fighting for whatever they believe they deserve. They don't want to join that fight. They come here to get a bag. They come here to
rub elbows with the whites.
They're not into. This is why I say black people need to give up that acceptance culture, trying to be everybody's friend. They're not coming here to be your friend. If you want power, you have to fight for it. That's another video I'm going to do. It's like we dropped the ball on that with the civil rights generation. They didn't want power. They wanted a pat on the head, trinkets and stuff.
Damn it, man, I heard the People's Revolutionary Army was once 1,000 strong. Now what happened?
They got government jobs.
You know that government office building on 25th Street?
Yeah?
We went down to take it over. But they were hiring that day. The brothers walked in with guns. We came out with jobs. The brothers weren't mad anymore.
But this is the reason for the buffer class, is to keep everybody divided. The whites on the top, you got yellow, red, brown, black. All these are classes. Each class gets a little bit more than the other one. But here's the other problem with the main problem with this whole mass migration thing, other than destroying the culture of the country. Look how much money is being sent out of the country, never to return. They're not certain. This right here, the top 10 is over $400 billion being sent from the U.S. to other countries. If they would have rocked with the freedmen and not bring these people in the first place, none of this money would be leaving the country. But I digress. The president of Mexico was fussing about the Trump administration wanting to impose a 3.5% tax on remittance payments. So this money they sent out, they were going to charge him 3.5% tax, which I think is too low. It should be 50%. American money should stay in America. You don't want to be an American, you should stay home. This money does not help America. This is another problem. There was a case about the caste system in California. Let's skip over down here. In 2020, California sued the tech giant Cisco and two of its engineers for allegedly discriminating against an Indian employee because he was of a lower caste. While the state has since dropped the case against the two engineers, I wonder what type of deal was struck for that. Litigation against Cisco is ongoing. Cisco said at the time it is committed to cultivating an inclusive workplace. You see, when you bring a mass of people from wherever, whatever elements in their culture, good and bad, is coming with them. India's caste system evolved over the centuries into a rigid social hierarchy based on notions of purity, with a person's caste assigned at birth. While India formerly outlawed caste discrimination shortly after its independence in 1947, caste-based prejudice and inequality persist and has since seeped into other countries. There you have it. See, they're not going to assimilate because they don't have to, because there's millions of their own kind that came with them. See, onesies, twosies is okay. But the buffer class strategy has created this problem. And they're making more money than whites. You look at the weekly income chart, they're doing better than whites. This is another reason why the buffer class strategy played itself. Racism has cost the U.S. 16 trillion Citigroup's funds. So this was a study done over a 20-year period. 20 years. Instead of getting people up to speed and training them for jobs that pay decent money, which should be extended to all Americans, they want to play the bullshit. And this is just over a 20-year period. What if you extended that to a 100-year period? I saw another article there. They estimated at around 30-something trillion. That they have so much hatred in their heart, they'd rather lose $30 trillion rather than to let them have a piece of the action and leave them alone. So I wonder how much you add in all these payments being sent. How much money is the country losing? Because they have a love affair with slave labor. Now, I am against mass migration. Onesies, twosies is okay. If you have a guy with a 500 IQ, yeah, sure. But to ignore the citizens of this country and give jobs to people from somewhere else, allow a mass amount of people coming over the border, and these people been here like 30, 40 years, still can't speak English. And they don't want to assimilate. Whatever they have from wherever they came from, they want to hang on to that. It's largely the Dems or the liberals pushing that whole multiculturalism stuff, and it's not real. If you study what destroyed Rome, it's the exact same thing what the Democrats is pushing was what destroyed Rome. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. That's how it should be. But that's not what the Dems are pushing. They're pushing, and some of the rhinos, that Republicans, some of them are bad too. This ain't no anti-Democrat thing. This is anti-racism. Racism is tribalism. But it's one thing to want advantages for your people. It's another one to screw people over to get it. Because it would have worked out much better. Now, just think about it. If they would have paid the freedmen and leave them alone, there'd have been no riots, no marches, none of that stuff. Because nobody would have cared. They could have kept the country 80% white. Nobody would have cared. Because they would have been living a good life. But you played yourself. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap this one up. I'm going to do another one with Barbara Jordan, Democrat, talking about they need to put an end to illegal immigration. Because back in the 90s, the Democrats sounded like the Republicans. Anyway, guys, this is why the buffer class strategy failed, because all the people that they let in don't want to assimilate. They want to hang on to whatever they had from where they came from, which is clearly not working. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe. And I'll see you brothers in the next video. Peace.